All right, all right, all right, all right. إن الحمد لله وكفاه والصلاة والسلام على رسوله المصطفى وعلى عباده الذين ارتضى ومن بهداهم اهتدى وبآثار أهل المدينة اقتفى وبعد فسلام الله على القوم أهلا وسهلا بكم ومرحبا Juan Leute, bienvenidos a todos. Bacher Ragle Khushamadid. And as always, people, Swagatam, Swagatam. Alright, what is going on, mi gente? ¿Qué está pasando? What's up, people? The Duke, you doing it? Inai, you doing it? Abdul Jabbar. Oh, wow, Abdul Jabbar. Mufti Abu Alpha, you're doing it, man. You're doing it. And Frowdy Frubry. Alright. Right, people, as always, much love, Claire. Ahlan wa sahlan, ahlan wa sahlan. Today's just been an exhausting day. Right, I had to actually, my mother had been abroad, so I had to go pick her up from the airport down in London. And it was, they'd what they'd said to the passengers was that they have to fill in something about track and trace for COVID. Now, that's not necessarily a problem. The problem was they said it's got to all be done online and you've got to submit your emails and do this kind of stuff. And they're talking to my mom, who's got no idea what. She's like, how do I do any of that? So yeah, so I think that was, and then they just all kind of disappeared, and there were just no officials in that where they were just left, and everybody had kind of just gone off, and so yeah, I think my mum got into a bit of a panic, but I mean, there was somebody there that helped her, and there were passengers from the same flight. I have to say, you know what? I was truly touched by the hospitality of this young man and his wife. May Allah bless them. They did not only help my mum, but then because they had then cleared up and I hadn't arrived, they actually took her to their house and told me I could pick her up from there, and just catered and everything. I mean, set out food for her and everything. I was really, truly taken aback by the whole hospitality. So, may Allah bless these people. Those of you that know them, he's from Slough, Ajmal. His name was. He's doing it, man. To him and to his family, much love. Right, so people, let's begin. First of all, I didn't even do a sound check, so I take it the sound is coming through fine. Let me just see the comments right here. Yep, I take it's going through fine. Right, so yeah, and I was even as I got there, the amount of hospitality, and they didn't know who I was or anything. And the amount of hospitality, I was actually, honestly, I'm just subhanallah. I mean, there are people, mazal and nas, mazal, people that they on God's green earth. So somebody said, sound is perfect. You're doing it, Frowdy. Frubbery, you're doing it. So we've got a hell of a lot to cover today, people. A hell of a lot. What we'll be taking a look at is, all right, I'm going brain dead. Right, so I want to take a quick look at the whole Chadwick Boseman thing. The kind of slight controversy, him passing away, and the controversy surrounding the Muslim circles on that. I wanted to also take a look at this. I've been asked by a few people to comment on the whole, or speak, or share my thoughts on وقعة Karbala, the whole incident of Karbala. What are my thoughts on it? Things like this, and if I can share my perspective from a Sunni perspective. So I'd like to do that. That is quite an immersive discussion, really, because it has quite a few precursors to it that we have to get out of the way. In addition to that, there's this controversy online about Dawood Kim, the Korean social media influencer who became Muslim last year, and recently the whole allegations of sexual harassment. People have been asking me, so I thought, chalo, adli dalwaka fid dilai. If everybody else is talking, then it's good to talk. Chalo, I'll drop my... Right, so other than that, and for the masala, I'd like to take a look at Apis, apostate prophet, and what is it? Muhammad Hijab and the debate that they've had. Whoa. So let us begin, people. As always, पेश खिदमत, people, some words to reflect on.
जो मिला उससे गुजारा न हुआ,
हाय हाय हाय,
जो हमारा था हमारा न हुआ, हम किसी और से मंसूब हुए, क्या ये नुकसान तुम्हारा न हुआ? खर्च होता रहा मोहब्बत में, फिर भी इस दिल को खसारा न हुआ. अच्छा है. खर्च होता रहा मोहब्बत में, फिर भी इस दिल को खसारा न हुआ. दोनों एक दूसरे पे मरते रहे. वाह. दोनों एक दूसरे पे मरते रहे. कोई अल्लाह को प्यारा न हुआ. भाई क्या लगाया भाई, बहुत अच्छे. वाह वाह वाह.
All right, so that, as always, we have to do some sha'iri to begin, some ash'ar, people. Wa inna min ash-shi'ri la hikmah, as in the words of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that indeed poetry brings forth some wisdom, people. That's what it does. Imam Qazi, all right, you're doing it. Qazi, Imam Walid Hussein Hadari, all right. So, what is going on, mi gente? Yeah, it is, somebody said, it is late, it is, ab kya kare? Main der karta nahi, der ho jati hai. That's the story of my life. It's not, I turn up on time, it's just that time precedes me. So what is going on? You know, Wiz True saying Assalamu alaikum. Right, so Mufti Dabu Lul Cha. Right, so it's all right. I've got rid of the person trying to put a username, trying to troll me. Puttar is the troll king. Right, so reasons for wearing earring. I think they look good. Acha, huh? Oh, you weren't looking for that reason. Acha. Well, you asked, you said reason, so I gave the reason. Right, so have you seen Tenet yet? I haven't, actually. I don't know what that is. Thoughts on children going back to school? Right, so thoughts on children going back to school. Yeah, I think it's about time the economy kind of like, and everything, not just the economy, but the social cogs start moving. back to a sense of normalcy. That's what I feel anyway. So right, so I'm trying to get my questions answered. Will it eventually? Somebody keeps asking, when you going 4 months? अबे क्या तकलीफ हो रही है? Why is it bothering you? Why is it bothering you whether I go 4 months or not? Somebody said views on apostate prophet. We will be discussing apostate prophet in the Mufti Masala segment. I get what you're saying, Mufti, but I work in critical care. I don't even know what that's the question. Oh, right. Okay, about children going back to school. I suppose if you guys are being kind of overburdened with work, then there ought to be some kind of system mechanism in place. Yeah. Right. It's not normalcy, it's normality. Chalo, normalcy, normality. Ka kare? I left school with no GCSEs. Everything I learned was just off my own back. So I'm pretty sure normalcy is also a word, but if not, then introduce it now. Right, so what's going down, people? What's going down? Mufti, don't you ever take vacations? I was just on a vacation for a week. Last week actually with the family. It was really good. It was nice. I enjoyed it. That's why I haven't done any mind traps for over a week, because I was away. And I enjoyed it. It was good. It was fun. We went to a different city, just kind of stayed out there, booked out some places and checked them out, and different. There was a retro arcade center that I checked out. It had all the arcade machines from the 80s and the 90s. So, you've got all the Street Fighters, the Pac-Man, the WWF wrestling games, so yeah, it was good. I enjoyed it. Right, so what is going on? Mufti Abu Layth, too much laughter is a disease of the heart. So, who's telling you to laugh then? No, it isn't. It isn't. So, that's a fabricated hadith. Right, so what is going on? Do I play computer games? I don't really play many computer games or anything like that. So, I mean, I do have an arcade machine in my library. You guys can't see, but it's right there. I had it specially made. You know that it's got all the Street Fighter and all of that on it. I don't play it now so much. It's just like with any novelty. When you first have it, you're like, whoa. When I first had it, I used to play it all the time. It's got something like I don't know, 300 games on there or something. So it's got like all those kind of R-Types, R-Type 2, the spaceship games. It's got Rambo. It's got the wrestling game, Street Fighter, a bunch of different editions. So yeah, I mean, I used to love Street Fighter as a kid, playing that. But now I don't really. I should play, but yeah, you get bored, I guess. Right, so I can't read the name, but somebody sent a super chat. You're doing it, whatever the name is. I can't read it really. According to Al-Khatib al-Baghdadi, I think the Prophet banned the collections of hadith during his life. Is this true? What does this mean? Right, so there are some narrations that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that somebody was writing down the hadith or something that the Prophet was saying. And the Prophet asks him, what are you doing? And he says, I'm writing this down. And the Prophet said, don't. That just write down the Quran. Now, this was because in that time, the focus was on writing the Quran. That was the only, because generally they weren't writing things. So the Prophet said, "Nahnu ummatun ummiya la naktub wa la nahsab." We are not a people of documentation. We don't generally document things. We're not a people of that keep data like that. Like they relied on an oral tradition, but the Quran was being documented in the Prophet's lifetime. So it was out of fear generally. This is the understanding, that the Prophet didn't want people mixing up maybe certain du'as or certain things with the Quran. And we know this why, because there is a hadith on the final sermon. On the final sermon, there is somebody, Abu Israel, I believe his name is, that he wants to, he can't keep something, he can't keep it to mind, so he wants to write it. The Prophet tells him, write, and then he asks, the Prophet ﷺ asks, is there anybody who will write this down for, I believe his name was Abu Israel, if I'm not mixing it up now. But he says that, and that's that's a Sahih hadith. So on the final sermon, the Prophet is having them write things down, like he's teaching his sermon, what he was saying. So, as in, he wasn't telling everybody to write it, but this particular person, he did say, well, write it. So it goes to show that it wasn't the writing which was a problem. It was out of fear that people don't confuse these things. Student, you're doing it with the super chat. It says, should people in poverty be grateful? Of course, people should be grateful, but it's going to be more challenging. It's going to be right, it's going to be something that is much more difficult when people are in a state of suffering. Hence, the reward is exponentially greater. So the real reward is when people are in fear of poverty or in fear of these kind of things. And Allah has, and there is a hadith where the Prophet ﷺ said, Amrul Mu'min kulluhu khair. That all of the, the matter of the affair of the believer, all of it is good. If he has something good happen to him, he is or she is grateful and they get rewarded. And if they suffer, they are patient and they get rewarded. So this is a teaching that, yes, of course, but it is understandable that it's more difficult as well. I'm not trying to, downplay that and pretend it's not. It's going to be significantly harder, but hence the reward will be significantly greater. And you see, it's a spectrum. We as human beings are social creatures. As Ibn Khaldun had said, and people say today, we're social by nature. And Ibn Khaldun had written that al-insan madaniyun bit-taba', that we are social creatures. Now, we assess ourselves by the social surroundings that we have. So we look at other people and think, well, that person is like this or this. I haven't got the latest iPhone. He's got the latest iPhone. I haven't got the latest car. He or she has got the latest car. And this makes us feel, it puts us down. It puts us on a downer. And this is why in the hadith, it's fascinating that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, let people, यार जरा खुल के बात करते हैं. Now let me share this with you. In a hadith, the Prophet ﷺ, he says that, you see, when it comes to things like gratitude, that you look at people who have less than you, because it is all a spectrum. Like, you will have so much that other people don't have. And there will be other people that will have so much more that you, me, other people don't have. And it's like that. It's about our perspective, Do we look ila man fawqana or ila man dunana, those people who are above us, those people who are below us? And this is, if you do that, it really gives gratitude a boost. Like, it makes you realize that, I mean, there's people living with disabilities, there's people living with much more hardships, there's people living with much less than what people will have. And when you look at it like that, you do think, subhanallah. And contentment, it is not al-qana'a or al-ghina in Arabic. In fact, people address it as a hadith, or it's a proverb at least, but I feel people say it's a hadith of the Prophet as well, that al-ghina ghina nafs, that true richness is the contentment of the heart. It is the richness of the heart. But I'm not trying to downplay money, because I'm not like those people that will say, money doesn't mean anything. It does. And I would say to people that, look, do try to, if you can, I encourage people to think entrepreneurially, to kind of to try set about on the path of trying to become entrepreneurs and stuff like this. I think it's amazing, and it definitely helps in life. It doesn't, make things worse usually. It can do, but it doesn't. So, yeah, but that said, money should not become our sole purpose in life. Okay. And there's a beautiful, there's an amazing dua that, sometimes people ask me, is there a dua you'd recommend or something? Here is a dua, people, that the Prophet ﷺ taught, that Allahumma ja'al dunya fi aydina, that I don't want money. No. Allahumma ja'al dunya fi aydina. Place the dunya right in our arms, in our hands. Place it, asking Allah, وَلَا تَجْعَلْهَا فِي قُلُوبِنَا. Just don't place it in our hearts. Now, this is an amazing, this dua sums up so much, that do seek, it is definitely, I mean, there are great conveniences with wealth, that, and, a certain amount of an acquisition of certain amount of wealth or things like this. But it's, at the same time, it should not become an obsession, a blinding obsession, that we should make our aspirations in life lofty. Okay. And, we should kind of think of things like greatness, conceptual things, ideas, and but so I hope that makes some. In fact, there's a lecture I once watched. It's probably been a couple of years now. It was actually a lecture of Shah Rukh Khan. You probably thought I was going to say Maulana something. But it was a really interesting lecture, actually, where he says, but it's just this point he makes was really fascinating, where he says that, look, I tell people, become rich first, then become a philosopher. I thought, wow, baat mein dam hai, that's true. Hey, Mufti, thoughts on, did you watch the Neuralink unveiling? Right, I missed that. I watched part of it. I had a guest. So I was with the guest and we were watching part of it, and he had Elon Musk had the pig, and but I hadn't caught up with the whole thing, and I wasn't too, but I was thinking to myself, I'm going to sit down and watch it and read up on everything, but I haven't yet done that. So I'm looking forward to that. There was Handsome Hound. I debated a Wahhabi. He argued Prophet sent only one person to Yemen to teach deen. I doubt. And because he sent one person, we should accept Ahad Hadith. Right. So, yeah, I mean, that is the Wahhabi kind of doctrine of saying, look, that we accept isolated narrations, but this is against the teaching of Imam Malik, in the school of Medina. The school of Medina was that the one-on-one narrations will snatch the deen from in front of you. And that's what I go with. Right, so what is your advice for learning Arabic, Fahim Khan? Fahim, you're doing it. Right, so shukran for the super chat. Right now, I'm just seeing. Hira Rodriguez sent a message, a super chat, but it got Zeba deleted it. So presumably it was a troll. That's weird that super chats as trolls. But here there's a question by Debo. Hey Mufti, thoughts on the Turkey and Greece conflict? Yeah, I mean this is an ancient conflict, really. This is something deeply embedded in the whole Turco-Greek psyche. Going back centuries from the times of the Ottoman invasions and things like this. I do think, look, on many, I feel that what Erdogan is doing in essence is not very different from what Modi is doing in India. They're playing on the religious sentiment politically. And the religious sentiment is the most dumbest and naive sentiment to play on with the public. That's like if you've got blocks, the hierarchy, that's like the total dumb block. What's going on in it? So that's what they are both playing on. I mean, Modi is obviously much more ruthlessly playing on it because he has more of an open reign. Like, he can do whatever the hell he wants. In his words, fakir aadmi hai, chola uthakar chal pade. So, but Turkey has to kind of always keep certain, because it has certain trade, certain agreements with Europe. It has to try and be a bit more diplomatic in its approach. It can't just like go around lynching people or tolerating stuff like that publicly. But right, so somebody said, Naila, many here have told me to block you. Whoa, okay, I don't know what's going on there, people. Come on. Think you need to hit the gym. Yeah, I do need to hit the gym, but today I'm just wasted. Tomorrow. What is the name of the microphone? It sounds nice. Shukran, this is a Blue Yeti, the one I've got here. I have got some additional settings put on via the Streamlabs, which I've just been fiddling with. So I've added quite a few filters on the mic. I don't know what the hell I'm doing, but as they say, chalti ka naam gaadi. The thing, if it moves, we'll call it a car. That's a proverb in Urdu. Mufti, what was Imam Burzuli's rationale for saying the Sharia can change? There's a huge, his point is the maqasid, the inherent mechanism of the Sharia mandates that it is for each day and age. That was his mechanism. That was his reasoning. Right. Let me go down. Does Salatul Tasbih, the shock troop you're doing it with the super chat, does Salatul Tasbih really forgive all sins? Right. Right. I don't. Maybe if a person, there's narrations. They're not the most sound of narrations, but they're okay. I guess it's to make people feel good and help people. But by sins, there's different things, you see. I would feel this is more on a personal note and to do with a person who's struggling with a sense of repentance to God, not to do with social affairs. So, for example, if you've wronged someone, that will always be an issue unless you can rectify it. And I guess we've all wronged someone in some way or another throughout life, as in if you're going to take the entire lifespan of someone. But what I mean is we have to recognize those things are still wrongs. It's not like, you go out, slap someone, come back in, start Salatul Tasbih. Go troll the hell out of people, come back, Salatul Tasbih, go burgle somebody's home, come back, Salatul Tasbih. It doesn't work like that. It's not a... So it's more about people, a sense of connection with God. If a person wanted to engage in something about where they have just been about, like, not necessarily to other people, maybe they've just not been grateful to Allah, maybe they've been arrogant, maybe they've been neglectful, and they want to repent. In these aspects, I feel that, if done with sincerity, then yeah, anything really, that if done with sincerity, is always the doors of Tawbah are always open. And even for other things, they're always open. But what I meant is, with the other things, if you can correct them, then do try to correct them. Sometimes, by the way, correcting them can make things worse. So do use a bit of common sense. In case you've been having a few affairs and then you're like, you know what, I'm going to go clear this up, straighten it. So you knock on the door and you're like, okay, let me have a chat with this whole family and tell them what I've been. Those kind of things would be a disaster. Never ever do things like that. But if a person has maybe conned someone, or they've done things like this, if you can undo that, that would be really, or if you've wronged someone in some other way, that would be the ideal scenario. Right, so advice for learning Arabic, Fahim Khan. Yeah, I mean, I would say perhaps Dr. Surti's book is great. Arabiya Baini Yadayk is good. Get onto some, of these websites like Verbaling. Get onto Verbaling and find yourself an Arabic tutor, and they'll charge, it'll be so cheap because they're in other countries, and the exchange rate is, so you'll be paying like £5 to someone for an hour, and just, whereas you'd be paying maybe £40-50 an hour, really, if you were getting somebody local. Right. Mufti, why is the Muwatta not as respected as Bukhari? The Muwatta it ought to be. The Maliki have always rated it above Bukhari, and that's why Ibn Abd al-Bar writes in his Tajreed, in his Tamheed. You've got Qadi Abu Bakr ibn al-Arabi who writes about that in his commentary on the Muwatta, on other things as well. He clarifies, he says that the asal and the lubab, the nectar, the core, is the Muwatta of Imam Malik. And he says, and upon it, Ju'afi built his book. Ju'afi is, if you don't know Ju'afi is Muhammad ibn Ismail al-Bukhari. Okay, his name, his kind of, not lineage, but his affiliation, al-Ju'afi, that kind of lineage affiliation, is Nisbah, is al-Ju'afi. Right, so, okay, I've answered that question. Right, what is going down? What is going on, people? 808 District, you're doing it with the super chat. Just as I was about to answer it, it disappeared. No, that's... Boy, I need to answer some of these quickly. Right. I missed 808's... let me see if I can see it here. Right, says, looking for English Quran with good logical commentary. I have an English one, still hard to understand. Maybe the study Quran. How does that sound? Maybe that's because I've heard great things about that. And I think just ignore the hate. People saying, "Oh, it's got this," people who wrote it. Some of them were perennialists, or they were like, shut up." just read it. People have put great effort in it, and like anything, you read. You're not stupid. If there's things you don't like, you don't like. I mean, it doesn't mean you have to completely throw something away. Your thoughts on why and how the theologians won their battle against the philosophers. So do you think that would be the same outcome? Same outcome as... I'm not sure what you mean by same outcome as. If they fought in this day and age. No, in this day and age, I think the philosophers would definitely... I don't think, this day and age, actually, it's not philosophers anymore. It's the scientists. The scientists have... The theologians don't really... they do stand a chance. It's not like they don't stand a chance, but the way the clergymen theologians, philosopher theologians, like the Islamic theologians were like philosopher theologians. They were like what they call the mutakallimun. So people of kalam. And that was like theology, but philosophical theology. It wasn't like just creed. Just like this is what you believe in God. It was about reasoning. People like Baqalani and Juwaini and all these kind of Ibn Fawrak and these kind of people, and Al-Ash'ari, these were great theologians, but like theologian philosophers. That's what they were. So those people would stand a chance against scientists today, but scientists today against the clergy, it's difficult for them to stand a chance. Yeah, it's difficult. I think you could. There's definitely compelling points you could make, but the clergy are so inept in this day and age that they are useless. In the past, why did the theologians win over the philosophers? I feel they won because the philosophers were not people who were preaching. So they didn't have the ears of the general public. The other thing is the philosophers were above the public's pay grade in conceptual analysis. So the public couldn't even really understand a lot of the time. Even today, the general public doesn't understand much of philosophy. So they wouldn't really, like even today, if you looked at it, you're not going to find, the common person is not going to relate to, they're not going to even relate to scientists. They're not going to relate to philosophers, or they're going to just relate to your local mullah, the kind of clergyman who just preach. This is how it was in the past, except it was worse. Right, so, what's going down? Right, let me just scroll back down. There's so many messages in between. Damn. Right, okay, I'm back. Right, let's discuss, people. Let's, I wanted to bring up... Right, let's bring up, people. No, this wasn't what I wanted to bring up, but there you go. See, that's just to remind us all about life, really. Right, so where we at, people? To discuss, right, Chadwick Bozeman, who passes away at the age of 43. Now, for Chadwick, the star of the Black Panther, was an inspiration for so many people for representing a black superhero and touching the lives of many people, giving hope, aspirations, and inspiration to the lives of many. He passes away. That is a tragedy for so many people who really, one, that they loved him, and two, they had no idea that he was battling cancer. Now, may Allah have mercy on him and on each and all who have passed away. Now, this triggered on Muslim social media, not on the non-Muslim, but on the Muslim social media. It triggered a debate. The debate was that how can somebody say that may Allah have mercy on Chadwick, this this is haram. And amongst the people who were saying this, you've got right there none other than our own Dr. Shadi.com, right? So, and there were several others as well. You've got I believe Danny Boy. So, this is the usual kind of click, really. That's what it is. The usual. You're not going to get them. It's the usual gang of people that you're going to find. People like Shadi.com. You're going to get people like Danny Boy. You're going to get this crew are the same. So Danny Boy was saying it against Imam Umar Sulaiman, saying that, oh my God, he shared a photo of himself with Chadwick, or I think he shared a photo. I don't know whether he was with him or what, and then he kind of, I think he said rest in peace, or he made some dua or something. And this caused a huge, oh my God, what the hell? Look, people seriously need to calm down. First of all, I've got a detailed video on YouTube where I discuss this issue. You can watch it. It's to do with Stephen Hawking when he passed away, and I spoke about this then. That, look, it is permissible, in my understanding, to seek forgiveness for anyone who has passed away, regardless of if they were a believer or not. Now, I do present that people try to present some evidences, like they will say, Allah said, وَلَا تَسْتَغْفِرْ لَهُمْ, do not seek forgiveness for them. First of all, that was specific to the Prophet was being told about that person specifically. Okay, in this particular case, this hypocrite who had been damaging, harming the whole entire Muslim community, plotting against the very existence of Islam, Abdullah ibn Salul, and the Prophet still came to pray his janazah to seek forgiveness for him. Why? Because it was from the character of the Prophet ﷺ that he is rahmatan lil alameen. It's a mercy for the whole world, for everyone, Muslim and non-Muslim. And he's told about this specific person or this group that don't pray over them and don't, let them, these people have chosen their path. That doesn't mean that you can't seek forgiveness for anyone. Now, people say, what about Ibrahim alayhi salam? Allah says to him in the Quran, don't seek forgiveness, whatever, for your father, because he says, I will seek forgiveness for you. And then Allah says, don't. Now, people understand this to mean oh, that it's haram. That's not the case. The case here was that Ibrahim alayhi salam was at a crucial point, it was a make or break scenario. He had to stand firm on his choice of faith. Now look, at that point, all these people were opposing him. Now, if he was presenting this side of, look, oh, I'm trying to seek forgiveness for you, I'm trying to pray for you, and they're trying to say, well, let's burn him, let's stab him, let's kill him, I'm trying to do this. He was told, look, enough is enough. If that's the side they want to choose, just leave them alone. You focus on yourself, Ibrahim alayhi salam, and do what you have to do. However, in his later life, when Abraham goes away and he travels, he becomes a much older man. He's now a very old man. And he is at the Kaaba. The Quran quotes his dua, which many people, especially the Hanafiya, recite in their everyday salah 5 times a day, where Ibrahim alayhi salam says, Rabbi ighfirli wa liwalidayya. That he says, oh Allah, forgive me, Rabbi ighfirli, forgive me, wa liwalidayya, and my parents. Are his parents not those same parents? The difference is now they have died. You see, then when Allah says to him, okay, don't stop being diplomatic with them. They're trying to kill you, right? Stop seeking forgiveness for them. They were alive. But at this stage, as an old man, they have now died. That battle is now over. And as a child, he's seeking forgiveness for his parents. That Rabbi ighfirli wa liwalidayya, and for my parents, yawma yaqum al-hisab. Now, this is a clear verse of the Quran. If you look at what the Mufassirin have to say about this, so you can read Fakhruddin al-Razi, you can read other people, they highlight that, look, yes, you can't deny that one, they do say, oh, maybe he meant by this his uncle, maybe he meant by this. You see, but that's not the apparent reading of the Quran. Maybe he meant by this his grandparent. No, but that's not the apparent reading of the Quran. And then they say, Fakhruddin al-Razi says, one of the understandings of this is the actual verse, that he can seek forgiveness for his parents. That is one of the possible understandings you can take away from this verse. And this, I argue, is the clear reading of the Quran. It is the actual reading of the Quran. And anybody saying something else is going against the apparent reading, and they are interpreting it to mean something else. So, look, listen, Shadi.com or, Danny Boy or these people who are trying to tell other Muslims you can't seek forgiveness. And Shadi.com, he came out with, in his post, it's an insult. This guy why are you attributing him to your God? He never recognized your God. Abe o mere chache. This is the problem where any person with any kind of degree starts becoming a sheikh. Right? Allah is not our God. Right? Allah is God full stop. This isn't like a private little God that Muslims have got. It's like he's giving an analogy as though, for example, the way Hindus have deities. And now, if somebody was to say, I think Chadwick would really have liked to have been associated with Lord Vishnu. So we're going to now attribute him to this particular God. Or if somebody says, I know, I think Zeus or one of these ancient gods, this is what Chadwick would have wanted to be. Listen, you genius. Allah is God, the ultimate God. He's not a God that the Muslims have, that, hey, we're attributing him to our God. This is God. There is no other God. This is the problem. Bakai ja rahe hain. This is the problem with these people. They've got no... But anyway, so it's not that you are forcing him and attributing him to some Islamic God. You are saying, may God have mercy on him. Allah is God. He obviously knew what God was. It's stupid assuming that he didn't know what God was. So anyway, whether he was a Muslim or not, can a person say, after somebody has passed away, may God have mercy on you? Yes, you can. Because can God have mercy on people? Yes, he can. Is it not a belief of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah that Allah, if he wants, he can forgive everyone? Is this not a core belief? Fakhruddin al-Razi mentions this, that it is a core belief of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. If Allah wants, forgive everyone. Kafir, Muslim, whatever. So what you are saying is just from the will of God. Like you're just saying, may God have mercy on him, or on her, or on anybody who passes away. And who are you, or these people, who are you to restrict the mercy of God? Last time I checked, it wasn't your dad's deen. If it was, we'd all be doomed. So, this is, as the Prophet said to the person who tried to act like all stingy with the mercy of God. The Prophet said, لَقَدْ ضَيَّقْتَ وَاسِعًا. Something that is so vast, you restricted it. The mercy of God is so vast, it's unfathomable. So it is permissible for anyone who passes away, if a person wants to. I'm not saying you have to go around praying for anyone or everyone. What I'm saying is, if a person wants to, you can seek forgiveness. You can seek mercy for someone. You can pray for someone. You can say, I pray, may Allah have mercy on this person. Yeah. Right, so... Alright, let's move on, people. Let's move on. Right, so... let's go into this. I've been asked... right, okay, there's a super chat. I'll take a look at this. You naughty, you teasing me. Right, Mufti... Right. Somebody's right. Here's Experiments asks, what's your understanding of the enjoin good, forbid evil hadith? If we shouldn't police other Muslims' actions as you say in your videos. Of course not. The hadith actually mentions that it's to do with what you in your heart, that you dislike something. And this is not speaking about religious things, by the way. This is speaking about matters of what will be deemed immoral. Not like, I suppose if a person wants to make religious things, they can, but really it's not speaking about that. It's speaking about what is socially moral, al-ma'ruf, the thing that is known. See, al-ma'ruf. And al-munkar is the thing that is socially rejected. It's interesting, isn't it? Because everybody forgets that what the word actually means. It means socially, like social ethics. And people have just given it, oh no, it means fiqh. It means the Hanafi fiqh book. That this is what you go around rejecting. And you go around hating people. Oh, his beard isn't long enough. Oh, I hate him. Oh, he hasn't clipped his nails. or she hasn't clipped her. Oh, I hate her. She has plucked her eyebrows. Oh, I hate. I bet you're gonna explode with all this hatred. Calm down. Calm down. Yeah. You know, trying to carry the burden for the whole ummah. Even the angels must be kind of amazed at this person that. Wow. They must say, even the angels must be thinking, yaar ye ho kya raha hai yahan pe? This one, what? This one doing? You know, this one. Over dramatic, over dramatic. So, right, so what's going on? Right, what is going on? Right, so somebody said, Mufti, my super chat. I'm pretty sure I answered all the super chats. I'm pretty sure I did. Let me just check here. Experiment. Mazari. Imam Mazari is in the house. You're doing it. You're doing it. He was supported for months. Abdul Basit, you're doing it. I debated a Wahhabi. I answered that question. I said about Imam Malik. Yes, that's the answer. That Imam Malik and Khabru Ahad. That Khabru Ahad is obviously not. Right, okay. Did Ibn Khaldun put forward that Karbala was a fabrication? Right, let's go to Karbala, people. Right, now I've been asked. Let me just bring this up. Right, that's. Now, I've been asked by a few people to share my thoughts on the waq'ah of Karbala, of what is the Sunni perspective on Karbala. And there's just so much to say on this topic. Right, so I doubt I'll be able to do justice to anything, but let me try and focus some thoughts on this. So I won't be. If there's any questions, I'll come back to them. So for just a few moments, let me focus on this topic. Now, what we'll do is we'll look at Karbala, and then we're going to, and some issues surrounding how its commemoration today, and then going to the precursors, and then coming back to Karbala. Okay, so Karbala is unquestionably a great tragedy that befell the Ummah of Islam. Okay, I think that isn't hidden from anyone. I think all Muslims are in agreement that the martyrdom of Hussein radiallahu an was a great tragedy. I mean, that's I don't think any Muslim, generally speaking, I'm going for the most part, would ever disagree on that. Okay. The events of Karbala are pretty much, I mean, for the most part, in summation, like looking at the kind of the major events of it are known. Okay. There are minor details that there is a disagreement about. So, briefly, what is it that's happened for those people that don't know? Well, what happens, and I will go back to the precursor, but let's look at this stage. Hussein radiallahu an is traveling with maybe, they say, about 70 odd people with him who are men, and then women separately and children. they're traveling. He's on his way to Kufa. Why is he going there? He's going there because he has been invited by the Shia. Okay, now the Shia are, you see, the Shia are of two types, by the way. Like when I use the word Shia, Shia can mean two things. It's the sect today that you have, like the Shia as opposed to the Sunnis. This is a theological Shia. This is somebody who has a particular sectarian belief. They believe certain things. I don't mean it necessarily like that. In early Islam, Shia was more a political thing. It wasn't a theological thing. There was an undertone, theological undertone, but it was really political. So it was about those people who favored Ali. And this lies in with all the precursors that we'll briefly look at as well. That the build-up, because Karbala is really a kind of a blowing point, an eruption of so many things that have so much pressure that has been building up. Okay. So in this event of Karbala, and it's interesting, the name Karb actually means like pain, like a suffering, and Bala, a test. Okay, so even though the name doesn't actually mean, but that's what it is, Karbun wa Bala. It is just a tragedy of pain and suffering. So Hussein radiallahu anh took his family over there. He was going there because the people of Iraq had invited him to come over so they can give him the Shia of his time. That means the political Shia of his time had invited him to Kufa, and they were going to give him a pledge of allegiance. Right, and what happens is he is intercepted en route at the place of Karbala by an army. Okay, in the generals, when I say army, it wasn't like, I know sometimes some Shia sources say they were a massive army as huge as the Roman army, and I think these are just huge fabrications, but they, I assume, were a couple of hundred people. So it was like that kind of a battalion that had been sent out to intercept them. And they did intercept them. It was led by Umar ibn Sa'ad ibn Abi Waqqas, so the son of the great Sahabi. Now, it was dispatched, this is in the time of Yazid, and we have to stop these events here, right? Because what happens is, at this place, Hussein is martyred. We've got to slightly go back in time to understand what is going on here. Why is Hussein going here? Yazid is in Damascus. He's the governor, not the governor, he's the ruler, the caliph of the Muslims at the time. You've got another governor who he has set called Ubaid in Kufa, who's dispatched this army. What is all of this about? So we have to pause this and go back. People, there has been some nastiness in Muslim politics, okay, but that's the norm in all politics. This thing about Rajniti, about siyasa, is it's problematic massively. And the truth is that really the roots of Karbala are way before Islam. They start with a kind of rivalry that begins with two clans of Quraysh. You've got the kind of Bani Umayyah and the Bani Hashim, who are ultimately, as they go up, they're actually brothers at some point, and they kind of break off, and you've got, and they become these kind of like clans. They're all related, they're all part of Quraysh, but the rivalry at that stage is kind of benign, as in it's not like they're not trying to kill each other, but they are prepared to put each other down, and who is more superior and who is more who is more prestigious when it comes to the Kaaba, who does this. So Bani Hashim were in charge of feeding the pilgrims, giving them water, doing things like this. There is, by the way, I don't fully buy the the popular narrative that Quraysh were really popular in Arabia. I don't believe they were. I don't believe they were that popular at all. And neither Mecca, in my understanding, was a very almost irrelevant town in Arabia. It wasn't how later Muslims thought it was, because what happened is the magnificence of Islam, the majesty of Islam, kind of eclipses pre-Islamic history. So people assume, because Mecca is now significant, they assume Mecca was significant, and then they kind of amplify all these stories. It wasn't. It's not on any of the trade routes. It's not even on any of the maps. It's not. There was no caravan that used to come to Mecca. But the people of Mecca would meet the caravan at a certain point, at a certain kind of junction in its route. So I'm not saying it was unknown, but it wasn't significant and important. Just to make that point there, because I disagree. Later on, there'll be a significant point to do with Quraysh, and I disagree with some of the Muslim interpretation. Okay, so you've got that. Now, fast forward. You've got Islam. When Islam comes and the Prophet ﷺ returns to Fath of Mecca, to liberate Mecca, Bani Umayyah are really the kind of like powerhouses are the powerhouse of Mecca. Now, Abu Sufyan does kind of, he sees and he does give in to Islam, as do other people, as does Muawiyah and all these other people. They become Muslim, radiallahu anhum. Now, in many ways, it is true that, look, they did see. Why did they all of a sudden support the whole thing of, one is embracing the faith, but one is really going out and supporting the Prophet and supporting, and they shift the focus from Bani Umayyah to Quraysh. And that was because the Prophet was such an incredibly powerful figure, which is understandable. And he brought Islam. Now, because he is Qurashi, he is of Quraysh, and all of them are Quraysh, this gave Quraysh an unfathomable kind of ranking. All of a sudden, like automatically, they got a boost. So it was better for them to kind of just, these little kind of quibbles that they've got, just to quash them and to just go with being Qurashi. We are just Quraysh is enough, as opposed to these little infightings. So that's what happens. Now, after the Prophet ﷺ passes, this is where the kind of the turbulence begins. So initially, in the time of Abu Bakr radiallahu anh, who is to be the leader? Now, this is something I don't want to go into in too much detail. I've spoken of it previously, but some Muslim scholars, I've heard many people speak. There's a popular understanding that al-a'immatu min Quraysh, the leaders will always be from Quraysh, and somehow the companions all knew this. I don't buy any of that. I don't believe that was known, and I don't believe that the Quraysh ever held such a position that the Arabs used to rate. There's this understanding that the Arabs somehow rated Quraysh. It's not true. Bani Tamim thought they were legends, and they didn't really give a damn who Quraysh were. And similarly, the other tribes, Himyar and these other people, didn't really care about Quraysh. So, now, in Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu's time, the Sahaba split. Just after the Prophet's passed. Now, Bani Hashim gather in the house of they have in the house of Fatima radiallahu anha, I believe, and they have their own assembly, the assembly of the Hashimiyyin. What shall we do? Who should be elected? You have the events of of Bani Sa'ida, the Saqifa, the events where the popular incident where Umar goes there, and the Ansar have got their own little gathering going on, and they're saying that who should, this should be the such and such should be the caliph, or some people are saying, I know there should be multiple caliphs, multiple rulers. Sorry, not caliphs. They weren't using this word. This word is a post-Islamic occurrence. But they were saying there should be an emir from you. In fact, Bukhari, they mentioned, minna amirun wa minkum amir. We should have different emirs. Umar radiallahu an kind of jumps the gun and he says, look, it is Abu Bakr. We're going with Abu Bakr radiallahu an. This was a bit of a gamble, but it worked. Right, now, Umar radiallahu an, in Sahih Bukhari, there's a very fascinating hadith where Umar radiallahu an actually mentions this. It's really interesting because he says that, what happened then, don't ever do it again. He says that really the Muslims are meant to have a shura. They're meant to have this kind of group that we, like a kind of a democratic solution. A democratic in terms of you have an elect committee and then they democratically arrive at a decision, a shura. So he says in Sahih Bukhari, Sayyidina Umar, that look, what happened when the Prophet passed away was it was a falta. Okay, it was something which basically could have caused chaos. And he says, Lakin waqana Allahu sharraha. But Allah saved us from the calamity. Do not fall into that ever again. Like, you guys, okay, we got lucky. Make sure that you guys kind of plan it as a shura. And then hence he leaves a kind of a committee after him. Now, after him, it is Uthman who becomes the caliph. Now, things get interesting in the time of Uthman. And why I'm saying that is because Uthman's personality, I feel, this is my personal assessment. I feel that the way Umar radiallahu an ruled, his era became a kind of like an icon that everybody wished they had. Because he kind of ruled unquestionably. Like, people didn't really challenge him. They didn't, and things were, Islam had expanded into the Middle East, the Persian Sassanid Empire, part of the Byzantine Empire. These things had come under Islam. Jerusalem had come under Islam. There was expansion into Egypt, but that was it. And it was large. It was, wealth had come. But somehow it was very smooth for Umar radiallahu anh. Now, he did rule with an iron fist, but it worked. And you see, when Uthman comes in, things double. Now everything is so huge. And he doesn't have that personality that Umar had to kind of rule with like an iron fist. And things have expanded massively. They've gone, it's like, put it like this, look. Just think of everybody ruling, not ruling, because that sounds too authoritative, but running your own household. Just think about it. Those of you, I mean, unless you're like just living on your own, then it shouldn't be a problem. But the amount of times that there is a conflict of interest, that's just your household. Now, if you have siblings, imagine you running you and siblings. Imagine you were in charge to run of the households of your siblings and you and your immediate family. This is if you have a couple of siblings, at least. Now imagine you have cousins and so on, and uncles and nephews and nieces and whatever. Now you are also, you as one individual are in charge of the running of all of these households. As in, you have to make the ultimate decisions and the clashes that that would cause. Now, what I'm talking about is on a micro, this is an unnoticeable scale. You know, when this goes huge, when you bring in people who are no longer even of your culture, of your thing, into this scope. So imagine, along with you running your household, you have your whole street now. You run that. Now, these people ain't related to you. They're not from the same background. They may not even speak the same languages as you, may not have the same religion as you. Things change. Okay. Now, in Uthman's time, the people who come under the Islamic empire are not even Arabs anymore. You know, it goes across North Africa. You've got Berbers, you've got other expeditions going on. Because the Middle East, you have to remember, the Middle East was still Arab. I mean, you had some Persians and things like that, but it was still heavily Arab. Like, it had an Arab influence. Now you're going into territories that are not even Arab anymore. Everything changes. These things are a game changer. So Uthman, what he did was he thought, who can I rely on? That's my private jet. Right? He thought, who can I rely on? So who he chooses is his own family members. Because he thinks, well, I can't trust this person. I can't trust that person. You know what? Because there's money involved, there's a lot of things. What I'm going to do is I'm going to rely on my own, I'm going to rely on my cousin or my nephew or my this. People I know, like you would today do with your friends. Because in this day and age, in the West, friends are the new family. So if all of a sudden, imagine you were given control of something, you would think, all right, what I'll do is I'll get that friend to handle this. I'll get this friend to handle this. But you have to remember that in the West today, the way we think of friends, in the past, people thought of family. So what he does is he starts putting such and such in control, such and such puts them over Egypt, over part of, in Tunis, in Tunisia, in Africa, such and such over there. Now, who is Uthman when it comes to his tribe? He's obviously Quraysh, but he is Bani Umayyah. He's from the Umayyad. So here, that old thing once again rises. So, and you've got Muawiyah radiallahu anh, who's already in Damascus from the time of Umar, and he's already established there as a governor. So Bani Umayyah are quite powerfully in control. And this obviously triggers problems. And then people complained about Uthman as well. People said he wasn't doing this right, he wasn't doing that right. But I mean, we can't discuss everything. That's has its own, has to be judged on its own merits. But the point is, Banu Umayyah are now in very powerful positions. Now you fast forward to the martyrdom of Uthman. What happens is the rebels who take over, they eventually pledge their allegiance with Ali radiallahu anh. Now, Ali radiallahu anh takes the allegiance eventually. So initially he declines, but then he takes it. Now, what he realizes is the powerhouses everywhere, like in Damascus, in Egypt, in Africa, in Iraq, in Yemen, everywhere, the governors, the rulers are all Bani Umayyah. So they are going to be incredibly annoyed because they are going to say that Uthman's been murdered and we need to deal with that. And so at this stage, there's certain things that happen. And Sayyidina Ali radiallahu an tries to depose them, remove them from their positions. This to them becomes an outright declaration of animosity. So the fuel is set alight. That old rivalry of Bani Hashim and Bani Umayyah is absolutely alive and kicking. So what follows are some more tragedies, some wars, some infighting amongst Muslims, the civil war, the battle between Sayyidina Ali and Aisha radiallahu anha. Although that didn't really have anything to do with Bani Umayyah and Bani Hashim, but that was still the kind of civil war Sayyidina Ali ends up in. And then the Battle of Siffin against Muawiyah. Now this was a very intense battle. Many Muslim lives were lost. And it ends up with a kind of... it is a point of no return for Muslim history. Because here the Muslims become forever divided. And what should they be doing? And they do set an arbitration which still kind of goes wrong. They set some people who eventually say, okay, we're going to remove everyone from power. We remove Ali, we remove Muawiyah, we remove everyone. We're going to meet again and then we'll decide. And then before they can meet again, Sayyidina Ali is martyred. So, and there's an attempt to martyr Muawiyah as well, but it's unsuccessful. And then Sayyidina Ali's son, Hassan, is given rulership. So Hassan, in my understanding, my opinion of Hassan radiallahu an, very high opinion of Hassan, it may appear very controversial to certain people, but I actually feel out of all out of the three, out of Sayyidina Ali and his two sons, Hassan and Hussein, I feel that Hassan, out of all three, was the most wisest. I feel he was somebody who had an incredible sense of insight that I'm not saying the other two didn't have that, but I feel his exceeded them. I feel he had more insight than his father, Sayyidina Ali radiallahu an. I mean, I'm not detracting from Sayyidina Ali being an amazing person. He was an amazing person, unquestionably. One of the most amazing people of this ummah. But, his son, Hassan, he saw things in a different light. And his concern was always how to avoid the most how to avoid the most harm for the greatest number of people always. Like his approach was one of diplomacy. Even in the Battle of Siffin, he did oppose his father, Sayyidina Ali, on not wanting him. He said that this is a huge mistake that you're going to fight. Not because he was with Muawiyah. He wasn't with... He was loyal to his father, so he fought with him. But he did tell him that, look, this is a mistake. War is always wrong. And when he was made in charge, you see, it's interesting that there's a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ saying that this son of mine will bring two great factions together. These two great groups, the fi'atan azimatan of my ummah. And he is the one that actually once again brings, he manages to bridge a truce between these two groups, the Shia to Ali and the whole camp of Muawiyah. He brings them together and he says to Muawiyah that I'll hand it to you if you want. If it will stop all of this and if it will bring peace and unity, then it makes no difference. And with that, things actually, for a couple of decades, stabilize. But what this does do is it solidifies, once again, Bani Umayyah. So Bani Umayyah, once again, because once Muawiyah gets into control, he makes sure that obviously his people are everywhere. So Bani Umayyah, once again, in the powerful positions. But on the flip side of the coin, under Muawiyah's rule, things were actually very stable. And there's once again expansion. There's the economy improves for Muslims. There's many records of how Muawiyah even looks into how can we expand on the economy. And he learns from certain of the previous Sassanid imperial administrators that how did you guys used to raise revenue? Like, apart from just saying, take it off the people. Like, how did you used to do it? And they speak to him they guide him on how certain treaties and contracts worked with land and produce. So he then implements part of that. Like, he sets up there's people who had certain fiefdoms, and they had certain land, and they would have a certain contract on when we produce this, we give this much of the produce, and we do it in this particular way. And they were Sassanid kind of contracts and administration. The Arabs weren't familiar with that particular style of contracts that they had, but he learns it from the Sassanids and kind of employs it within the Middle East. But the point is that there is stabilization, there is peace to a great degree under his rule, but on the same token, Bani Umayyah are once again kind of consolidated. So they become they're really cemented. Now you have to remember, they have this history of feeling that we really were the real chiefs. They do have this, that they feel that, look, ultimately in the time, pre-Islam, we were the daddies. They do have this kind of attitude. So what happens as Muawiyah is to pass away? He says that I'm setting about an heir to the throne. The heir is none other than Yazid. That's his son. So Muawiyah just has one son. And this is, it's Yazid. So, and keeping in mind that there were great people alive. There were great companions still alive. Abdullah ibn Umar is alive. Abdullah ibn Abbas is alive. Hussein, Hassan is alive. Abdullah ibn Zubayr is alive. And many, many companions are still alive at this time. So, all great people, nominees. But the truth is, they are not Bani Umayyah. And to them, they did feel, I do accept that I feel that Muawiyah did have this thing that he felt that, at the end of the day, it was Bani Umayyah who called the shots. I feel that he must have felt like that because there was that kind of air of that authoritarian kind of like throwing your weight around that Bani Umayyah had. That they felt it was their, part of their own legacy. So he gives this to his son, Yazid. But before he does that, he brings in other other members of his clan and consolidates them. But one of the people he brings in is called Ziyad. And I've mentioned this in my previous thing, who was an alleged son of Abu Sufyan. During Abu Sufyan's lifetime, or prior to this, he was never recognized. And Ziyad was an incredible fighter. And he was actually a warrior from Sayyidina Ali's army, who is captured by Muawiyah. And then somebody tells him that, he's the alleged son of Abu Sufyan, he's your alleged brother. But really, I feel that this was a political move. I do feel that, one thing, people ask me, why do you admire Muawiyah radiallahu an? I won't lie, I do admire Muawiyah radiallahu an. I admire him because I feel that he knew how to handle people. Like he was a, you see, he knew how to play the game. You see, because ruling isn't, politics isn't about piety. And they just don't mix. It's not about, like, when you're ruling things, you have to know how to handle people. Remember the thing I mentioned about the iconic age of Umar? That, in my understanding, was an exception. It was never the rule. And people mistook that to assume it to be the rule. They wanted, I feel that many pious people wanted that, what Umar had. But the truth is that kind of rule of the pious seldom happens in history. It may happen as a one-off. And it, occasionally a one-off, you get a really nice guy ruling. But usually people who rule have to be very astute. They have to know how to handle people. They have to be diplomatic. They have to know how to win the hearts and minds of people. And Muawiyah radiallahu anh was great at that. He was a true, see, the word politician has a negative word to it, but he was like somebody who knew how to play that game. And he would often say that, look, I treat people like there's a between me and them is just a fine hair that is holding us together, binding us. If they pull on it, I ease up so it doesn't snap. But if they ease up, I pull. And he would say that, sometimes he would keep one of his advisors was like Amr ibn al-As, and he would say to him, who's Bani Umayyah as well, he would say to him that, look, they would kind of, like the kind of good cop, bad cop. He would do that. He would say that, if somebody comes, like if they don't want, like let's say he doesn't want to give somebody something, and he would say that you play the bad guy, and I'll play the good guy. So if they didn't want it, Amr ibn al-As would kind of say, no, we're not doing it. No. And Muawiyah would kind of be like, no, I think and he'd be like, no, we can't. I'm sorry, sir, but we can't. And the public, but it worked. You see, my point is that this is how politics works, unfortunately. You see, you can't, it's not about like how much you fast and how much you pray and how much, it's about how you manage people. And this is why I do kind of admire him, because he knew how to kind of handle people. But what I feel an ultimate grave mistake of Muawiyah radiallahu anh was placing Yazid as his heir. Yazid, to me, was an absolute nalaik. You have this word nalaik, this kind of like, he was a disappointment that's what he was. He was just a disappointment. Now, there's things like people say, oh, he was a hidden hypocrite towards Islam. As in, by hypocrite, I mean like towards Islam. Like inside he was a kafir and outside he was... I think that's all nonsense and it's not true. I do believe he was a Muslim, but he was a disappointment. He was the opposite of his father. He did not know how to play the game. He felt that, this thing of Bani Umayyah was something that he just deserved. And he felt somehow, you see, the Middle East had its own history, by the way, of Arab kings. The whole kings of the Lakhmid dynasty pre-Islam. And the Ghassanids, and it had like the Manadhira, like you can read about them, the different kings of the Arabs of the Middle East. He kind of felt that he was one of them. Because remember, they're in Iraq. They're in Damascus, but it's close to Iraq. It's the Middle East. So he feels that he's part of that legacy. And he's, as soon as he comes in, he wants to rule with this iron fist. And he wants to kind of, and what's interesting is Muawiyah even tells him, look, I have made this so easy for you. This is what Muawiyah says to him. He says, I've made this so easy for you. I've given this to you on a platter, like it's handed to you. He says that I only see 5 people causing a kind of like some turbulence. And they are Abdullah ibn Umar, Abdullah ibn Abbas, he says Hussein, Abdullah ibn Zubayr, and Abdurrahman ibn Abi Bakr, the son of Abu Bakr. He says that these are the people of Quraysh who have not given you bay'ah so far. They've not given you the pledge, and I can see them as causing some. But look, really, this is a done deal for you. I've handed it to you on a plate. And so, what does Yazid do? He goes and turns the whole thing into a goddamn mess. Absolute, like, you couldn't. It's like, bloody hell. Like somebody totally, like a Neanderthal couldn't have done a worse job than what he does. He begins with Waqat al-Harra. His first thing was, why have the people of Medina not given me bay'ah? He attacks Medina. Literally attacks Medina. Like he sends his army. First of all, some of his governors, they ain't agreeing to go, replaces them, sends someone else. By force, the Iron Fist, forces them to subdue. And he only reigns a couple of years. And the final year, it's to do with 61 Hijri, you've got Hussein. This incident. He's saying that these people haven't, submitted to me. He wants their pledge of allegiance. So this is what's going on. Now, what he does is there is a governor in Kufa called Nu'man ibn Bashir. Now, he is sympathetic. He's a Sahabi, great Sahabi, radiallahu an. He's sympathetic to those people who are not giving Yazid the pledge of allegiance. So, as in, he's not encouraging them publicly, but he's sympathetic to them. So, he has him removed. And in his place, he places the son of Ziyad. Now, remember, Ziyad, I mentioned, was a great warrior. You know the way Muawiyah had a disappointment of a child, Yazid? Ziyad had the ultimate disappointment. Ubayd was an absolute tyrant. What's interesting is Yazid never ever liked Ubayd, because there's many descriptions of, many narrations of, because they would live within proximity, that they would often argue. This is during Muawiyah's time. He couldn't stand him, and he felt that they are just kind of like commoners who have just made a false claim to the house of Bani Umayyah. And he would say this openly sometimes, that who the hell are you anyway? Just because, like, basically my dad pretended to allow your dad to be his brother, doesn't make you royalty. So these kind of arguments he would often have. But he does give him the governorship of Kufa, because he knows that the guy's a tyrant and he will have it under control. And he does. He goes to Kufa and he's got it unlocked. Now, in Kufa, you have, now we've come back to that point. You have a bunch of people, so many in their thousands, who are writing to Arabia. They're writing to Hussein. They are from the Shia to Ali. They are from the Shia, political Shia. They are telling Hussein, come here, we will give you our allegiance. We're going to make you in charge. We want you. Not we're going to make you, but we want you. And people are disappointed with Yazid, understandably so. Yazid, and look, Yazid, I don't believe he was a kafir. Okay, so there's certain things that people say about him being a kafir. I don't agree with that, but I do accept that most people would have clearly seen him, at the very least, as a disappointment, if not just as somebody who's doing damage and done grave damage to Muslims and Islam. Because he attacked Medina, he attacked the city of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So this guy, he has no bounds. So now what's happening is in the Hijaz, in Mecca, you've got certain people who are prepared to set up resistance. And amongst them, you have these four. The son of Abu Bakr, Abdul Rahman, has passed away, natural death. So you have Abdullah ibn Umar, Abdullah ibn Abbas, and then the latter two, Abdullah ibn Zubayr and Hussein. Now the former two, Abdullah ibn Abbas and Abdullah ibn Umar, they decide to just give their allegiance to Yazid. They say, this isn't, we don't like him, but this is just going to lead to bloodshed. There's no point, there's no point being dead over this. So they just give him the allegiance. The latter two resist, Abdullah ibn Zubayr and Hussein. Now, radiyallahu anhum. Now, Abdullah ibn Zubayr says, I'm going to set up camp. I mean, not just camp, but my base in Mecca. I will establish a military resistance to him. Now, there's an interesting point here. Many Muslims had felt over the last few decades, because the shift from Medina and Mecca had gone to the Middle East, where, remember, the ancient kings of Arabs used to live, they felt, the Arabian Muslims felt, that the home cities of Islam had lost their prominence. That it's not, and they'd kind of felt this. So why Abdullah ibn Zubayr setting up Mecca once again, as he actually won the hearts and minds of many Muslims. Hussein radiallahu anhu was being meanwhile invited to Iraq. Now, this thing of him going to Iraq, this was the thing that, you see, his own relatives warned him against this. Even his own brother, they told him, don't go, that this is a cataclysmic mistake, that do not go. Abdullah ibn Abbas actually gave him some very sound advice. He said to him that, look, the people of Yemen were always loyal to your father. If you are to resist, go to Yemen. The people of Iraq were never loyal to your father. That Shia were kind of like a wavering bunch. So, but he didn't listen, radiallahu an, and he felt that, look, I'm going to go. Now, he did send his cousin, Muslim ibn Aqil, to go check it out. And Muslim ibn Aqil goes there, but he can't, unfortunately, send the message back in time, and he himself is killed under the instructions of Ubayd, who catches him, he kills him, and and the people, and this is it, the Shia betray him. And in fact, there's a famous saying that there's a poet, Frazdak, who meets Hussein when he's en route because he hasn't received the message that what's happening over there. And he thinks it's all good because he told Muslim ibn Aqil that you go, and if there's any trouble, you send a message. Because no message has come, he's set off. And he meets this poet on the way, and he asks him that what's the situation. And he tells him that, look, the people of Iraq, that where you're going, قُلُوبُهُمْ مَعَكْ وَسُيُوفُهُمْ عَلَيْكَ. That these people, their hearts may be with you, but their swords are against you. Like, these people are not to be trusted. But yeah, I mean, Muslim ibn Aqil unfortunately suffered a tragic death. He was tortured, he was killed, he was thrown off a building, decapitated. Anybody that gave him shelter, there was a person called Hanit that gave him shelter. He was, he was tortured, tormented, murdered. Anybody who was seen as a sympathizer, and this was by the instructions of Ubayd, now who was the governor of Kufa. Now Ubayd dispatches the army. We've come back to the beginning point. He dispatches an army with Umar ibn Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas, a kind of battalion. He says, look, Hussein is coming, intercept him. Now he goes there, they intercept him, and this is where Karbala takes place. It's at the point of Karbala. Unfortunately, all the men, for the most part, are martyred. Now, Umar ibn those like Umar ibn Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas, he definitely, obviously knew what he was doing. There are some points about you see, that some people say that how did this fighting, did they just go there and attack them? Because the general Sunni sources show that when they go there, they don't just straight away start attacking. That there is some kind of some negotiations, but it seems unclear what seems to have happened. There are narrations that Hussein radiallahu anh does ask them to let him go, and he will just like he won't go to Kufa, he'll retreat. But they say no. There's narrations that he asks them that I want to see Yazid, take me to Yazid, and they say no. Now, some of the reasons why were they saying no? Some Sunni sources suggest that Hussein radiallahu anh, when he was there, the army that had come, these couple of hundred men, whatever, he recognizes some of them, or he recognizes the clan that they're from, and he says that, look, such and such clan and such, are you guys not part of the petitioners who petitioned me to come? And he calls out and he announces this. Now, I feel that there may be some truth to that, and this may have been part of the reason that they felt that we can't let him go back, because if he gets to Yazid and says that, for example, we are the people, we are part of, let's say, this clan, this particular tribe is also part of the tribe that petitioned him, then we're all going to get executed for treason. So it's better to just, bury this matter here. And this also lends credence to the fact that when they do, unfortunately, martyr Hussein radiallahu an, and all the men, pretty much all the men that were there, that were fighting, they also burn the camps. But they don't actually attack any of the women or anything like this, but they do burn the camps. Now, why did they burn the camps is something that historians weren't too sure about. Now, this seems to lend support to that they say that some Sunni narrations also mention that, and some historical narrations mention that Hussein had the petitions with him. So, these things, he had carried them in a sack, that these kind of letters that were signed by such and such tribes, that please come, we will give you our allegiance. And this is why they weren't sure so their point was just burn everything. So that kind of makes a lot of sense to me. They do, there are a lot of stories about how the martyrdom occurs. Now, I do feel that definitely a lot of the detail is probably not authentic. Okay. So there's like very precise detail of, particular arrow did a particular thing, and this did this, and, all this kind of stuff. And I don't think that was true. People say that they made Hussein radiallahu an like starve of thirst. Oh, sorry, like they kind of kept him and everybody from water. They denied them access to water, denied the children access to water. To be honest, I'm not convinced that's true, because generally, I think, you see, they had a very weird approach to battles. I know it doesn't make sense to us today, but they had a weird approach that they would allow certain things. Like, they didn't think, and to me, that doesn't make sense that they, there's a story they denied some of the babies water, and they denied this. I don't feel that's, personally, I'm not convinced that happened. And I think that may be more so the Shia narrations and stuff like this. But what did happen is the battle. It was unquestionably a tragedy. It was a great loss. I feel it was very unfortunate. Um, and I feel the reasons behind it were more so to do with the people there thinking that if we let him go, radiallahu an, this may come back to bite us in the rear. So it's better to just kind of kill this off here. And in my understanding, or in my opinion, I don't think Yazid would have wanted to have killed Hussein. I don't think he would have, although I don't think he was that bothered by it happening either. So there's that. Like, some people feel that this was Yazid's, his great plan to, like, he always wanted revenge for his ancestors. And there's a poem that they say Yazid said, that he said, لعبت حاشم بالملك فلا خبر جاع ولا وحي نزل. They say Yazid said this poem that, it's Hashim who have been playing around with the kingdom and so on. There's never been any revelation, and there's been nothing. Like, basically, the prophet and everything was a lie. I don't buy any of that, to be honest. I think all of these are fabrications against Yazid or whatever, just to add to it's kind of to spice it all up. I do feel that Yazid, if Hussein was allowed to have gone to Yazid, I don't think Yazid would have killed him. I buy that because it's in the Sunni narrations. Yazid says that, when he finds out, that he says that, why did you do this? If he came to me, I would never have done this to him. I can believe that he wouldn't have. Although I do feel that he didn't really care that it happened. So, like, I feel that he was ambivalent. And, I don't think he was upset over it or anything. I don't really think he gave a damn, but I don't think he would have gone to that extent to have done that either. So there's narrations that he brought the women folk into his palace and kept them there for 3 days. And then it is true that they do go to his palace, and then he does set them off in a caravan and says, look, if you need anything. But come on. If you need anything, we just killed all your family. And if you need anything, this kind of thing. But yeah, so that's my kind of take on the whole thing. Should we commemorate this kind of death anniversary of Hussein radiallahu an? I don't personally do that. I don't. To me, it's not this thing of commemorate, like doing a matam, this kind of where you're mourning, like to have days of mourning. So when every 10th of Muharram we mourn Hussein radiallahu an. I don't agree with that. I think that's I don't feel it's, in my opinion, it's not an Islamic practice. But people who do it, I don't personally condemn them. I don't condemn people who choose to do it. In my perspective of things, I don't see it as a practice. I don't do it like that. I obviously acknowledge, I'm sure all Muslims acknowledge, that it was a huge tragedy. But I don't feel it needs to be kind of mourned every year as an anniversary. If a person personally does that, sure, that's fine. But I don't think this is to be like ritualized, the way the Shia have it ritualized. But that said, if they want to do it, it's a free world. It doesn't really, that's their take of Islam, and they want to do it, fine. I mean, but I don't personally see it. I don't see, in my understanding, it's not the Islamic thing to do, but I get that that's their take of it, obviously. Somebody said, did Mufti absolve, do you absolve Yazid? I don't. I feel that Yazid was kind of wretched in what he did. I feel he was an utter disappointment. He was a tyrant, and he was somebody who, is very arrogant in his thing. I feel he felt that rulership kind of just belonged in his tribe. And this is why, some of the coins that he prints them from his year as year one. He prints his year of reign, his year of rule on the coin as year one. Not the Prophet's hijrah, but his own. And this is part of these coins have been found, and I think that's part of the arrogance. And it's who the hell are you to like, you've got the hijrah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and you as acha hum bhi hain. It's that law labis al himaru libasa khazin laqala an-nasu ya laka min himar. If you dress up a donkey in like a solid suit, like a Gucci suit, it's still, people are going to say, at the end, even if they try to praise it, they're going to say, yeah, vah, what a donkey. So I don't respect him like that, but I don't go to the extremes of, I don't believe he was a kafir, and I don't curse him. I don't encourage people to curse him. But that's generally, I don't believe in a culture of cursing, that's why. So it's not, I do recognize that some ulama like Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal and these people did say it was permissible to curse him. But it's not how but Imam Abu Hanifa disagreed, and Imam Malik generally didn't curse. And it's not like Islam generally doesn't teach a culture of cursing. So that's why I wouldn't curse. But I see him for who he was, but I don't call him a kafir. As to the question on, do I accept the claim? There's a claim that, do I accept that he personally wouldn't have killed him if it come to... Now that's just a hypothetical because it never happened. But I can believe it. I can believe it. Although I don't think he had any remorse for it happening. See, there's a difference. Like, I don't really give... Like, somebody does something, I don't give a damn. But yeah, maybe if I was doing it, I wouldn't have done it. I wouldn't have gone that whole way. But they did it, I don't really care. And I think that was his approach. And he died shortly after. And yeah, so that's my take on the whole Karbala thing. I do feel that the real culprits, honestly, I feel that, the real culprits, like, I feel there's a collective. But they are all, it's like a joint venture. They're all responsible at the top level, but there's in what order. I feel the real culprits were the Shia that invited Hussein. I feel that they were the real culprits who were kind of like ignored later on. Like, people kind of forgot about that. But they were the real people that were kind of responsible for the deaths of all these people indirectly. The second in order, I would put Ubayd. He was, from the ruling angle, he was the main active element, and Yazid was like the passive element. So that's how I would put them in 1, 2, 3. I'd put them all as responsible for the tragedy, but I would put them in that order, that the first most responsible were actually the Shia. Shia to Ali, the Shia that invited Hussein. And in many ways, if Hussein radiallahu anh had not gone, maybe the kingdom, if he did manage to establish, if he had stayed with Abdullah ibn Zubayr, they could have maybe established something incredibly powerful that may have even changed history. But I suppose it was what it was, and in the words of the poet, that هي المقادير لمها أو فذر إن كنت أخطأت فما أخطأ القدر. That if it is destiny, I guess, and it was what it was. It's happened now. So I hope that gives an overall coverage of my take, but I do feel that it's not, this, I don't agree with commemorating, mourning the death. And I want to add here, I condemn if people are using the mourning of Hussein as an excuse to curse and to push an agenda of, like, let's say, Shia Islam, to say, well, let's curse all the companions and let's do all this and let's do all that. I do condemn that. I disagree with that strongly. And I feel that's actually a disservice to Hussein radiallahu anh, because Hussein in his own lifetime never ever cursed those people. So if you're using his tragedy to curse them, then I feel that you are equally a disappointment. So that's all of that. And as to the issue of tatbir, the kind of beating, this I feel is just ignorance. And to be fair, many Shia have condemned it as well, many Maraji. You've got Ayatollah Khomeini, even Ayatollah Khomeini, he condemned it as well. Like many Maraji, many Ayatollahs have considered the tatbir, the beating of yourself, haram. And others have supported it, but I think that's ignorance. It really gives a horrid picture of Islam to people, and it doesn't really avail anything. And it just shows that Muslims are brutes. Okay, it kind of gives that image. So I hope this has given some clarity on this matter. I'd been asked, I suppose, وَلِلَّهِ الْأَمْرُ مِنْ قَبْلِ وَمِنْ بَعْدِ. The matter, the affair belongs to Allah from before and after. So, cool. Let's move on to some of the other things. I was, as a final note, I will add that, today, the Sunni Shia thing, I do find it very, I do pray that we can move beyond it. There is now we can move beyond the kind of fighting, the kind of thing. There's a poet, I don't know if you guys are familiar with him, but I actually do love this poet. He's an Urdu poet called Mohsin Naqvi. Now, his poetry was amazing, but he said some poetry which was provocative. And he did used to, in a particular poem, he's attacking the Sipah Sahaba of in places like Pakistan, and they say that poem got him killed. And I'll share that poem with you guys if we've I don't know if you guys can hear this. He was an amazing poet, and he's giving a metaphor. माथा मुनाफिकत की तपस्या से शिकन शिकन गर्दन में तो के लानत परवरदिगार था बोलते आओ गर्दन में तो के लानत परवरदिगार था तन पर जहान पर पैरहन जज्बा जबी पे आले मोहम्मद की दुश्मनी चेहरे के खद्द खाल पे फिरौन की फबल होठों पे मन के बत्ती सईदो यहूद की गाँव में डालरों की छनाछन झनन झनन जागो 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 मुकर्रर जो कह रहा है मुकर्रर उसके अलावा जो नहीं कह रहा मुकर्रर सिर्फ वो होठों पे मन के बत्ती सईदो यहूद की. He's speaking about the Sipah Sahaba group. He's giving a metaphor as though it's a woman. Knees is the slave girl. जिनकी समझ में आए बोलता है मेरे साथ लगती थी तो ख्वाब है जुमला मुझे कसम है इस वक्त की साथ लगती थी दूर से अबू सुफियान की कनीज सींचा गया था शोला नमरूद से बदन तोहमत नबी के दीन पे लगाना था मशगला
इस्लाम का मजाक उड़ाता हुआ सुखन। अब देखो कौन चुप रहता है। गुजरी जो पास से वो अबू जहल की बहू,
गुजरी जो पास से वो अबू जहल की बहू,
गुजरी जो पास से अबू जहल की। मैंने कहा ये कौन है बदकार बदचलन? मैंने कहा ये कौन है? गुजरी जो पास से वो अबू जहल की बहू। मैंने कहा ये कौन है बदकार बदचलन?
No, he's not cursing Aisha.
बदचलन, बदकार बदचलन, बदकार बदचलन। आई सदा कि इसके मुकाबल करो जिहाद। क्यों? देखो ये है सिपाह सहाबा की अंजुम।
सिपा सहाबा he's talking about.
गुजरी के पास से इस्लाम तेरे बाप का है? बावर्ची खाने की औलाद, ऊँट और ऊँटनी में तमीज न करने वालों की औलादो, बुध के दिन जुम्मा नमाज पढ़ाने वालों की औलादो। मैंने कहा कि कौन है बदकार बदचलन? आई सदा के इसके मुकाबल करो जिहाद। क्यों? देखो ये है पसीने से बच गई।
So now that is, you can see that on YouTube. Now that is Mohsin Naqvi. He was murdered a few days after that, I believe. They mention on the video that he was fired down, gunned down in Lahore, and most likely as a consequence to this poem. And in the poem, he's not, as far as I'm aware, he's not attacking Aisha radiallahu anha, but he's attacking Sipa Sahaba. But you see, this does lead to an interesting question. I've already mentioned I do condemn the cursing of companions and things, but there's an interesting philosophical question here. Do I believe that they have the right to still be able to have these views? See, now this is slightly technical because I disagree with the view 100%, and I condemn the cursing. But do I believe that they have the freedom to still have these views and express them? Now, if they I don't mean to, in a way, to disrupt the peace, as in to, create fighting and stuff like that. But I mean amongst themselves. Like, let's say, do I believe they have the freedom to still, even if they were to curse certain companions, do they have the freedom to do it? Now that is an interesting, a very intricate question, because I feel that they do have the freedom to do it, even though from my perspective, condemn it. And why am I saying this? Because, look, we have to win people over by winning their hearts and minds. Okay. Because as much as I could disagree, like I personally, as a poet, I love Mohsin Naqvi, okay, amongst other people. I feel it's a tragedy he was killed. But I disagree with, I'm sure, his Shia beliefs and stuff. And I'm sure he would disagree with my views. But I do agree with that the statement that he said that Islam kya tere baap ka hai? That, is Islam, does it belong to your dad? That this, at the end of the day, this is how I view it, and this is how I have the freedom to view it as I please. And I guess that is true, that is true, that they do have the freedom ultimately to hold their views, as reprehensible as we may find the views to be, but they do have the freedom to have it. And really to kind of bring people away from animosity, we have to do it in a way by winning the hearts and minds, not by kind of like saying, let's shoot people, let's fight people, let's kill people, let's harm people. This is never the way. So I thought that it's a very intricate, difficult question, honestly. But I feel that because I had to actually think about this, believe it or not, I pondered over this. That look, where do I stand? I thought that because I disagree with this, but do I feel that they don't have the liberty to have such a view, have freedoms to have them? And I thought, well, actually, they do. I feel that I do support the freedom of any belief, but I may disagree and find certain beliefs reprehensible. Cool. All right, people, let's move on. I hope that was quite lengthy, but I know it's a very difficult kind of topic as well. We had to kind of go over that. All right, people. Then maybe what the hell? I don't know what that's about. Right, did I miss any? Let's see if I missed any super chats. I'll answer them. Zubair had sent 100 stars. You're doing it, Zubair. You're doing it. Do Muslims have to give their children Arabic names? No, they don't have to. But it's a custom. It's an identity. Arabic names are nice because wherever the person will be, they will be identified. What I would say is go with names that they kind of gel well with an environment. So even if they are exotic, but they still are easily pronounced. Like there's no point like having a name like Daygam. You go like, my name is Abul Ghaffar Daygam. They go, huh? Yeah. So that's so go with a name that's nice. Maybe it has a similar thing in English. That would be quite. I would say something like that. Ash Aslam. Sharminda karte the. I dearly appreciate your super chat. Yeah, shukran. Much love to you. Right. That's all I can say. You didn't ask a question, so shukran, dearly appreciated. Right. So there was just super chatted. No, I've answered that on the neural links. If Imam Malik rejects the golden Sahih chain, would it be going against logic? Because the narrators are sound, kind of borderline arrogance on the Imam's part. No, it's because it wasn't part of the living tradition. What's your understanding? I've answered that. Right. So what do you think of tribalism and sectarianism? I hope I answered that, Zaki, where I spoke of the Shia thing. And I feel that people do have freedoms to believe what they want, although as a person condemn several beliefs, but I feel that they still have the right to have them. Are you following the US election? I'm not following it closely. I need to. Shaib, you're doing it with the stars. Does Mufti think Ismailis are Muslims? I feel any person who claims to be a Muslim is within Islam. Then it's really, we may say, oh, look, according to the books of theology, this is a problem, that is a problem. But that's just problematizing certain beliefs. But if a person claims, the hadith says that if they face our qibla, pray our salah, eat of our meat, they are fadhak al-Muslim. That is a Muslim. That's what the Prophet said. That's what I'll say. I may disagree with them. I may, say that these are such and such a belief is not an Islamic belief. But really, I feel it's not our job to chuck people out of Islam. Baap ka deen thode na hai. It's not like it doesn't belong to us in that way that we think it does. Right, so peoples. Mufti will no longer be streaming after the 100. That's it. Switch it off. Oh, right. I did say, what's the history of you choosing the name Abu Layth? Yeah, I really liked the name, and I wanted a kunya that was unique. So it must now be almost 20 years since I've had, probably about maybe about 19, 20 years since I've had the kunya Abu Layth. And I just liked it. I felt that it was really unique. And I wanted something unique. Apun ka style. Alright, so what do you think of Abu Sufyan? I've already done the Abu Sufyan thing. I answered all of that. Wasn't there an Abu... Yes, there was an Abu Layth. I was familiar with the kunya Abu Layth, the Samarkandi, the Hanafi. I had heard of the name Abu Layth, but I also knew that hardly anybody kept it, Abu Layth. And I thought, what a don. What is it? إذا رأيت إذا رأيت نيوب الليث بارزة فلا تظنن أن الليث يبتسم. Allah says that if you see the fangs of Layth, Layth actually means lion. If you see them open, like you can see them, do not be mistaken to think that Layth is smiling. There you go, that the lion is smiling. Right, let's move on to... I'll tell you what, a quick chat about... let me just see. A quick one on the whole situation about Dawood Kim, and I'll move straight on to the Masala segment. Right, so Dawood Kim, several people have asked me, I'm not sure if you're familiar with this, the whole, what are my thoughts on the controversy? So he's a social media influencer who became Muslim, Korean. He's got a huge following online, on YouTube and stuff like this. This whole thing about sexual harassment has come to light. It's apparently a relatively old incident. I think about 1 year and a couple of months or something old. So the incident is a bunch of girls coming, partying with him somewhere. He's drunk. He comes back. I think whether they're a bit drunk or not, I don't know. One of the girls says she wakes up and he's on top of her and he's kind of like trying it, but it doesn't happen or anything. She kind of like, whatever, starts screaming. He kind of says all he recollects is people are screaming. He said at the time he didn't really remember anything, just remembers people are screaming, and the girl's saying something like, I'm going to call the police, and he says, I just felt, I don't know, maybe I've done something, I better leave. So he's leaving. There's a video of him quite calmly actually just putting his shoes on, very relaxed, and he's just kind of walking off. She reports it to the police. There's some kind of an investigation and there's some kind of a settlement. So she just says, fine, he has to apologize. He apologizes to her. He says, look, I don't remember anything, but I think I may have, inappropriately acted. I'm sorry, I was drunk. They have some apology and he does that. And then that's apparently it. So this was, I think, summer last year. His version is he wasn't even a Muslim then. Then recently, this month, I think it's this month. Recently, she starts an online campaign. Oh, I think she starts an online campaign about him. Yeah, recently, and he comes online and makes a clarification statement. Says, "Look, I was involved in this. This is what happened. I was drunk. I just remember some screaming and blah, blah, blah. And the police looked into it and we had a settlement. And I don't know why and he's saying, I'm sorry to people. So what are my thoughts on? I mean, I don't really know what to really say in that sense, because look, this is the very reason why alcohol is a problem. Things like this that make people lose control. And I mean, I don't understand what's actually going on in that incident. What I would say is that, look, these matters really have to be police matters. Like, there has to be an authoritative body. This trial by media is never, like, who's right on... I don't know what the hell that even means. To be fair, he hasn't denied that. He just says that, I don't remember, I was just drunk. So what do you say in a situation like that? And he says that she at the time agreed that, okay, fine, just say sorry, and I said sorry. And they made some written agreement where he apologized. So really, I would say that, look, people like... If somebody was not content with something, they should take legal action. But this whole trial by media thing, it just leaves a lot of speculation that people are like, well, why would somebody wait a year, make an agreement, wait a year? Are there other motives involved? Are people trying to make money out of something? Are they trying... I don't... And I would just... I would clearly condemn those actions. Does it make him a bad Muslim now that he did that? Look, I don't feel you can judge someone's Islam. But if a person says that, look, I was drunk, this is why, first of all, I say that drinking is a problem. And this is why Islam teaches you shouldn't really be drunk. Okay, because this is the kind of stuff that could happen. And you can't, like he's saying, I can't even recollect it. Like, I don't even know. It's like if somebody tells me, you did something and I've got no memory of it. In fact, there's a very, what's that movie, man? That, oh, bloody hell. It's actually a very powerful movie. The one where they kidnap the prisoner who has abused, or has he abused? He's murdered their child. Right, it's got that Gerard in it. It's where they, but it's very fascinating. It's about, I mean, I don't want to ruin the twist, but if you guys watch it, it touches on similar things. You'll find out at the end. But the point is if a person says, look, I can't even remember that I did something. Now, you see, these things, I would say just keep them legal. And if you can pursue something, if you're entitled to compensation, pursue it by all means. I'm not saying don't pursue something. If you want money for that monetary compensation, take it. I feel that, if you've been violated, you have a right to it. It's not like, but yeah, I mean, but it doesn't mean that somebody's Islam is bad, though, because he's a Muslim. I don't think it should take away from him being an Islam. Now, he says that, look, I did these things before I became a Muslim. And I stopped this when I became a Muslim. So, okay, I take his word for that. Like, even if he's lying, fine. Okay, he's saying that, but I don't know. So, I'll just take his, at face value, whatever he's saying. And I would just, my thoughts on it would be that, look, whatever you have to pursue it legally. As in, go through the proper channels. But this trial by media, to me, is unacceptable. Like, it's not the thing. Because you don't know what people are saying. And people say anything. And even, look, I'm not saying people say, oh, you shouldn't be victim. Oh, any questions towards a victim is victim shaming. But we know that people are driven by motives. And people lie. Victims lie as well. It's not like... so saying anything on social media, anybody could say anything, oh, he pulled a knife out as well. Did he? I don't know. But you wouldn't say that to the police. So this is why keeping things legal carry repercussions. So people are a bit more wary when they start exaggerating. Cool. All right. So I'll leave it with that. That's enough of, let's move on, people, to the masala segment. Right, so those of you Seba wants compensation from Mufti. For what? Yeah, these are the things when right, so Mufti, do you personally keep your hands to the side in prayer? Right, do I keep my... I do in sometimes. I do qabd a lot of the times, and sometimes I do sadl. There is weird. Right, so people, let's move on to the masala segment. All right. So those of you that are familiar with this is Apus, right? Now, he's had a recent debate with Muhammad Hijab. And, the build up to this debate as well. Those of you that remember from last week, there was the incident of David Wood ripping up the Quran. But then you had an incident with...
Is this worse?
Allah
telling me that I should be executed.
Ripping up the Quran himself.
Executed. Is this worse? Is this worse? Is ripping this apart worse?
Now, you see, so what this happens, and then surprisingly, there is a debate that is hosted by Adam Saleh and Slim. They host this debate where they get, I'm surprised they actually agreed to it, but they get Apus, Apostate Prophet, and they get Muhammad Hijab. And to be fair, I was actually quite surprised by this discussion. Now, I disagree on many things with Muhammad Hijab, and I don't like his approach usually. It's a very kind of he has a bullying approach. Sometimes he wants to be quite forceful and stuff like that. But I have to say, in this debate, he was quite very surprising. He annihilated Apus. Seriously, I mean, Apus was I don't get it, because he's never prepared, which is just one simple solution. He really genuinely does not know he's not clued up. That's the only thing that one has to understand. So this debate covers a bunch of things. Here's a small extract from it. Is
this worse?
No, right.
Dajjal with a small d.
It's not that one. Nope. Where's it gone?
There's something that's called moral realism. Are morals objectively real or not? Are they real or not? Are
person can have objective moral values, subjective moral values, relative moral values, and so on.
Are they objective or subjective? What in your view?
What? Say it again. I didn't understand you.
Okay, my question to you is so simple. My question to you is: morality, is it objective or not? Are there such a thing as objective moral?
I don't think so.
So okay, good. So then, therefore, all of your moral arguments have collapsed against Islam. You've collapsed all your moral ones.
No, they have not.
Yeah, because anything that you say about Islam now, morally doesn't make sense.
How morality works.
Morality.
That's not how morality works. You do not.
Morality works. So you yourself believe it's objective. It's not true. It's not objective.
A nihilist, for example, can be a nihilist insofar that he does not believe that there are natural moral values.
Nihilism is not synonymous with objectivity. Right?
What are you talking about? A nihilist may believe that there are no...
It's not subjective. It's not synonymous. Nihilism is something which is...
Of course it's not.
Yes. So you're saying you're a subjectivist. If you're a subjectivist...
I am not.
No, you said you're not an objectivist. You must be a subjectivist. What are you then? No, stop pretending you...
Wait. Did you just say if I'm not an objectivist, then I must be a subjectivist? Is that
you have to be? If you don't believe in objective morality, what are you laughing at, man?
So if I don't believe in objective morality, then I have to believe in subjective morality.
No, it says that though. What are you laughing at, man?
Two choices. What's the third option? Go on.
Thank you.
Bro, you're not even on A levels. Bro, I swear to God, wallahi, uqsum billah, you're not even a C grade A level. You're not even a C grade. If I were to mark your work, bro, you're not a C grade.
That I've encountered in my life.
You're not on, bro, a year 10, year 11 in ethics can get a better understanding of it. I think a 16-year-old, a sharp 16-year-old will see that you don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Now, what is the other option? You've got objective morality. Objective morality, what's the third one?
2,000 years of moral philosophy.
No, go on, say it. What's the third option? You've either got... You have no answer. You've either got objective morality, subjective morality. What's the other one?
What's the other one? Do you think there is no other option besides objective morality?
Yeah. I'm saying it's either objective or subjective. What's the third one?
So you think there is only objective morality?
Oh my God.
What's the third one?
To say...
What are you laughing at? That's not an answer, bro.
I will make a video response to you because I think this will be.
You don't need to make a video response. If it's not objective, it has to be subjective.
No, it's not.
You're gonna get laughed at. You know, cosmic skeptic, them guys, they're gonna laugh at you, bro. They're gonna associate with this idiot. With all due respect, you have not level understanding of morality.
I have just asked you.
It's either objective or not. If it's not objective, it has to be subjective. There's no other option. What can it be? There's no crossover. There's no middle ground. It's either objective or not. That's why you got it all wrong. That's why your criticisms against Islam are flawed, because you don't even have a basic understanding of moral philosophy. You don't.
So,
and you can't pretend you do. You have
to the Muslim viewers who don't understand philosophy very well.
Dajjal with a small d. Or we can say mini Dajjals, no problem. But there is one Dajjal with a big D, okay?
You see, look, guys, this debate was so embarrassing for Apus. I have to say that, look, listen, right now, being an atheist, if a person is to be an atheist, so somebody being an atheist, if they are an active atheist, they have to be involved in the realm of the philosophy of religion. They have to be people that are aware of discussions, theological philosophy, or just they have to be aware of this kind of stuff. Even if they are not philosophers, they have to have arguments. They have to bring something to the table. Like, let's take it like Richard Dawkins. Now, he's not a philosopher, but he brings science to the table. He knows what morality is. He will know, like, he brings a very powerful dialogue and discussion to the table. Sam Harris. I mean, Sam Harris is a genius. Although in recent years I was a bit disappointed in how he'd become very bitter, but nobody can question his geniusness. Like, he is somebody that is incredibly intelligent. He's very clued up. He understands philosophy, understands aspects of psychology, of neuroscience. He brings something to the table and then discusses it, goes head to head, toe to toe against people of religion. You see, the problem with some ex-Muslims, now I'm not saying all, some ex-Muslims may be very clued up, but with some ex-Muslims, the problem is that all they really bring to the table is just a sub-story of Islam is just a horrible, horrible religion and I have suffered. And it's just this sub-story on repeat. Like, look, I'm against all persecution of any person, any apostate. I condemn anybody persecuting them or harassing them for being an ex-Muslim. But if the ex-Muslim has, the only thing he has to bring to a table is his, Dukhi Atma, this kind of like Devdas Kahani, that every time, so in this debate, I was surprised. There was a point where he asks Muhammad Hijab, what is the punishment for an apostate? So Muhammad Hijab says that the punishment is that he says, I believe, like he believes, not me. I don't believe there's any punishment for apostates. He says that he believes that apostates should not be killed. I was even surprised listening to this because I thought, what is that Muhammad Hijab? And he says, I believe that in an ideal Muslim state, that they should have ideal Muslim country or Muslim countries, they should have treaties with non-Muslim countries where if somebody becomes a public apostate, due to their safety, they should be relocated and relocated to a safe country like in Europe somewhere, or America or Canada. And I gotta say, whoa. You see, now this is Muhammad Hijab developing. Muhammad Hijab. Naughty. Right, so now when he says this, apostate prophet says to him, oh, how can you say that? And he says, no, I'm basing this on Ibn Qayyim's book, and he uses the Inzad al-Ma'ad, and he uses this evidence based on the hadith of Suhail ibn Amr and the treaty of Hudaybiyah, and the Prophet ﷺ made this treaty, so we're basing it on this, and there's maneuverability within the Sharia, and Apis just isn't, you see, he doesn't want him to say that, and he keeps arguing with him. And there's a point where Muhammad Hijab says to him, look, he says, I don't know what you want me to say. He says, because I'm telling you, I don't believe they should be killed, but you don't seem to be happy with that. And that hits the nail on the head. You see, the problem with that is it doesn't tie into the sub-story. Because when you've got this thing of, where did it go? No, this...
There's something that's called...
Is this worse?
This incident that you've got here of Apis ripping up the Quran, this is his sub-story. You see, they threaten my life. They see, to them I should be killed. And it's like, look, okay, you've said it now. Like the guy is saying to you himself, you should be happy that somebody who's from a Salafi background, like Muhammad Hijab, is saying publicly, I don't believe apostates should be killed. You should be happy. But he kind of gets agitated that, why are you saying that? No, you should be saying that they should be killed. So this really shows the whole, that kind of agenda, this whole thing of, and this is the problem, that, if you don't have a meaningful dialogue to bring to the table, you'll be incredibly lacking. And you've had it in the past, like Ayan Hirsi, who's suffered in the past or whatever, but whenever she comes to speak about Islam, and it's like she'll be invited with atheists sometimes to speak, it's really just a sub-story on repeat. Like, it's not really any philosophical points. She's not there to discuss, like, well, you've got this kind of a contradiction, or you've got this in the faith, or if you look at this, or if you look at the cosmos, or you look at evolution, or if you look at this, or how can... It's just saying, in Somalia or in these places, Muslims are just evil people. It's just a sub-story on which may be incredibly unfortunate, but the point is, you can't just live off that. You can't like, how much do you want to milk this story? Like, okay, you've said it, I agree with you, that's wrong. I agree with you that condemning apostates is wrong. I support the freedom of people who want to believe and don't want to believe. But yara bas kar yaar, like kitna roega yaar. You just non-stop. And then, look, you come publicly, you rip up the Quran. Now you tell me something. Is it not the hypocrisy of these people, right? They will, look, check this out. They will go live stream with people like David Woods, who is an evangelical, hardcore Christian. There's very little difference between him and, from their perspective, him and a Muslim. He believes that the wine is the blood of Jesus Christ. I mean, this is what Christians believe. I mean, whether he will deny, I doubt it he will deny, but he believes that Jesus Christ God sent him as an avatar to get battered so mankind can somehow have salvation, that this was God's great plan, that's how intelligent God is, that this is the best he could come up with. So they will team up with someone like that just to insult Muslims. Like, this doesn't make any sense. Like, I mean, how can an atheist be teaming up with an evangelic, like a hardcore fundamentalist Christian, just to have just to bash Muslims? That makes zero sense. Like, I can understand atheists just having a go at all religions, but to gang up with one religion to bash another religion, that just shows the insincerity to your own cause. Like, your cause is that religions don't make sense. So how on earth are you supporting you're side by side insulting the faith of almost 2 billion people on earth? Like, I said you wouldn't do that to any book. You wouldn't stand there with Harry Potter and rip it and eat it and chew it and spit it. What do you think of a sacred book? Now tell me, just because, imagine somebody, unfortunately, either witnesses a crime, a gun crime or something in America, yeah? Now, to bear arms in America is their constitutional right. Now, just because some Americans may misuse that right, they may go out and, shoot up a cinema hall, as some wacko, crazy Americans do sometimes. Would they, or imagine they went there and some American said to them, no, you don't have the right to be here, this is this, and they say, this is the United States of America, blah, blah. Would they stand there and burn the American Constitution? They wouldn't. They never would. Would they burn the American flag? Because it's the American Constitution that these people misused to bear arms. They never would. They'd never burn a flag. Does burning a flag harm? The same argument. Oh, I ripped the Quran. Does it harm anyone? Does burning a flag harm anyone? But why do you do these things? You take the Quran, you rip it in front of people, you chew it, you spit it. Look, I tell you, the vast majority of Muslims are actually sympathetic to you. They don't want apostates to be hurt. They don't want people to be kind of persecuted. They don't want these things to happen. You are insulting each and every one of them. Just think about that. And the audacity and arrogance to say, well, I don't give a shit. Well, you should. Out of decent courtesy, as a human being, you are prepared to offend everyone just to make a point. Like that. So it's these kind of things, they go to show that there's zero civility that these people bring to a dialogue. That if that's what you're prepared to do, so this was that, but I want, the dialogue in and of itself was incredibly embarrassing. I have to say, I did previously watch Apus's dialogue with Danny Boy, and I don't take a liking to Danny Boy. And I would say that, look, that with that dialogue, Danny Boy had kind of decimated him. But I thought maybe that was a kind of, he caught him off guard. Maybe because Apus said, I wasn't prepared. I didn't realize he was going to quote all these things. He was going to quote facts, figures, statistics. I wasn't expecting it. Yeah, are you ever expecting something? I mean, this dialogue was pathetic. It was useless. Like this whole thing, honestly, you've got, all I can say is that
what's more,
you've got
objectively real or not? Are they real or not? Are they objective or subjective? My question to you is so simple. Like, my question to you is: morality, is it objective or not?
That is not how this works. That is not how this works.
You see, this is the thing that for Apus, it's like, yeah, where do these questions come out of? You're going to debate? That's like this person who all of a sudden drives into a pole And then he has to get out and he's looking at the pole like, where the hell did you come from?
Launch is bro. Burrami gadi hai.
That's it, you see. But he started, look at the confidence.
Launch is bro. Burrami gadi hai.
This is the kind of confidence that they go with. That, yeah. But look, this is the arena. You know, in religion, if you want to debate religion, it is an arena of concepts, of philosophy. It is the battle of minds. It's like any arena, like any if you want to go into boxing, or you want to go into martial arts or football or sports or cricket, or you have to have the caliber. You have to be good at the art. If you want to come into the realm of debating religion, you have to be quick. You have to be able to think on the spot, to be able to debate, to be able to know philosophy, to be able to know these dialogues, discussions, concepts, these perspectives. You have to know this. That's what the arena is. There's no point coming to the arena and going like, yeah, puss ho gayi. Ayo, a puss. That's the thing, innit? This is him preparing.
Now wait.
So that's, I had to cover that. Right, I thought and to be fair, look, I'm very straightforward. I disagree with many of the approaches of, and I've condemned many of the things Muhammad Hijab has said in the past, Danny Boy has said in the past, other people have said. I will condemn them. But I had to say that, look, in this debate, to be fair, I was shocked that Muhammad Hijab had such a forward-thinking approach about apostates. I was like, wow, okay, there's progress. And, I would have thought that people would be happy. I would have thought even Apis would be like, oh, wow, man, thank God I've got that on camera. But he was more upset than what the hell. So anyway, that was my thoughts on the whole debate. Whoa, people, we gotta wrap this up. This has been going on for quite a while. We're almost coming up to but this is it. You know when you have the confidence, but then you're like, yeah.
Launch is bro. Burrami gadi hai.
But I just love the way he's questioning this poll. It's like, where the hell did this poll come from? Guys, with that, let's wrap this up. It's been awesome. By the way, the morality debate, I don't personally agree with Muhammad Hijab, his perspective on morality. I know it's not about, you see, people, I know somebody had said intersubjectivity. Yes, of course. I mean, there's intersubjectivity. He could have said intersubjective approach, but one can argue that is still to a great extent subjective, although it's a shared subjectivity. I do disagree with the aspect of morality. I see morality as we have a morality instinct, we have a compass which is very raw, and then that is built upon based on the social context and what I would say the social consciousness, that the social awareness kind of develops that morality compass, that instinct, base instinct we have. To me, it's analogous to language. The way we have what Chomsky calls a universal grammar, I would feel we have a base universal morality. But it's very, very minimalistic. It's very simple. It's just focused on recognizing harm and then empathy. That's all. So when we see suffering, we can empathize. And then the rest of it is kind of all carved out through the social practice. So it's not that I actually agree with necessarily the arguments that some of these people are making. But my point is, you have to know how to debate them. Guys, let's wrap this up. It's been awesome as always. If there's any issues, do reach out to me. Do reach out to me. Instagram is possibly the best place. I am going to be starting soon, and not this week, next week. I'm looking to start in Birmingham live classes from the Ark. I'm looking at Wednesday where I'm going over fiqh. And then what I'll do is I'll have them professionally recorded and then upload it. So it will be the same course, The Foundation of Islam, which does exist on YouTube already, but it's a much older format. I'm going to kind of update it. So there's a more lattish people, lattish. So if people are in Birmingham or in the UK close by and they do want to attend, you're more than welcome. You can reach out to Muhammad Shaban on Facebook or on Instagram and he'll give you all the details. Till then, guys, take very good care of yourselves. If you haven't already subscribed to my YouTube and Facebook and Instagram, then all I can say is all I can say to you guys is all right, so you need to launch into it, people, and click the notification icon. Do subscribe. Insta is probably the best place to send quick messages. I do respond. There should be some Mind Trap later on this week, possibly Thursday. I'm looking at, let's see how that goes, Thursday or Friday. Do look out for that. And Patreon, of course, there will be a Mufti's meetup soon as well on YouTube. I'm thinking maybe this week. I don't know. I gotta see if I'm free. And guys, Salamullahi alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.